The easiest way to tell how big a yellowfin tuna really is by how long the sickles are on either end of its body. And this one is the biggest I have ever seen in my entire life, by far. But when it swims right up to my buddy, he doesn't pull the trigger because he doesn't have a float attached to his spear gun, and this fish is way too big to fight without one. I, however, do have a float, which is perfect because the fish is now swimming directly towards me. Oh, and I want to thank Incogni for sponsoring this video, but more on that later. Anyways, although my shot placement is pretty good, what I don't account for is just how fat this tuna actually is. I mean, look at the girth on this thing. It's like an entire meter wide. And here, you can truly see how big this fish really is. But as it swims off, my floats on the surface don't move at all, which is not a good sign.
That shot's not through, is it?
However, I don't want to go back empty-handed. So I take my buddy's smaller gun and head directly underneath this bamboo raft and line up on this other, smaller fish called a triple tail. This might be the easiest fish in the entire world to catch with a spear gun. I don't know if missed is the right word here, but let's just say I didn't hit the fish that I was aiming for. When people claim that there is zero bycatch in spearfishing, moments like this are the exception to that rule. Anyways, this day started off with me thinking that I was going to land the biggest fish of my entire life. And so far, all I've done is spear the smallest fish of my entire life. However, we're not done yet. As we head back to shore, we pass over a pocket of reef, over 100 feet deep, that is absolutely full of big snappers. But these days, I can't stay down long enough to spear a super deep snapper like that. My buddy Nico, however, is able to. This area of Bali is my absolute favorite place on Earth. And yellowfin tuna aren't the only things that live around these waters. Thresher sharks, whale sharks, dolphins, whales, mola, and even orcas sometimes pass through here. Not to mention marlin and all kinds of other sport fish call this area their home. But not just this general area. The ocean here is surrounded by thousands of these little bamboo rafts, which are handmade by the local fishermen, and I don't know of anywhere else on Earth that has this many fish aggregating devices all together in one place. Anyways, back to that snapper. As you can see, 100 feet of depth is no problem for Nico. And this snapper, which has probably never seen a human being down that deep before in its entire life, doesn't stand a chance. On his way back up to the surface, my other buddy, Kadir, meets him mid-water, just in case. However, Nico's not done yet, and after quickly stabbing the fish in the head, he dives right back down.
So bad, bro. So bad.
Over the years, I have had some amazing days on the water out here, catching some of the best fish of my life. And now that we know that there are actual monster tuna here as well, this spot just got even better. And back on the boat, when Nico and Kadir pose for some photos, they take their bromance to a whole new level. And no, this is not AI. What makes you think that? Oh, and by the way, did I mention that Nico's YouTube channel is linked in the description? Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Anyways, after having seen that monster tuna, we decide to head back up here as soon as possible to try to actually land one. But BP Oil has other plans for us. You know BP, the giant gas company run by an elite ring of Illuminati pedophile billionaires that convinced the world's most powerful leaders
weapons of mass destruction
to invade all kinds of smaller countries so that they can drill giant holes into the middle of the earth.
Holy f***! Pretty wild.
The wrath of American justice.
Suck out as much oil as possible. Transport said oil around the world on giant ships that, every once in a while, crash and spill that very same oil right back into the ocean, destroying whatever ecosystem is unlucky enough to cross its path. Yeah, that BP oil
God's got us, Trump's got us.
is planning on drilling right underneath our magical ocean wonderland that's full of all of the best fish in Bali. And in the process of scouting out the best possible place to pillage the ocean floor up here, they have removed all of the little bamboo rafts surrounding the island, including the one where we saw that monster tuna. But they're not only destroying my favorite fishing spot in the entire world, they're jeopardizing the livelihoods of thousands of local fishermen who rely on these things to make a living. BP eventually found a place to set up their horrific oil rig, the resilient local fishermen built a bunch of new bamboo rafts and planted them back out into the ocean. Which brings us to today. We are back. And we are here for one thing, and one thing only. Giant f***ing tuna. But first, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, BP Oil. I'm just kidding. The real sponsor of today's video is Incogni. When you spend a lot of time online, there's something most people don't think about. Your personal data is basically floating around the internet everywhere. Your address, phone number, email, even your secret tuna spot. They're not just being leaked, they're being collected and sold by data brokers without you even knowing it. And that's where a lot of identity theft, scams, and other weird stuff starts to happen. Incogni helps clean all that up. They automatically track down and remove your personal data from hundreds of data broker and people search sites. And they continuously send removal requests because that information can come back over time. What I like about Incogni is that it runs in the background. You don't have to manually request removals or chase emails. They handle it for you day after day. And it would be borderline impossible to do all this yourself, especially in the age of AI. And if something shows up outside their automated system, their custom removals let you send them a link and a real privacy expert handles it for you. Incogni helps you disappear from the web, keeping you and your personal data safe. Use the code AquaticApes at the link below and get 60% off an annual plan. Sponsors like Incogni help make these videos possible. Now let's get back to the video. This is the head of a thresher shark. Look at how crazy its eye is. Anyways, because I don't want to be a third wheel with Nico and Kadir, I brought my buddy Jack along as well. You might remember him from some of my past videos. Jack is my Floridian friend who launches powerheads at giant cobia in the middle of schools of giant bull sharks, and whose fish are swallowed whole by Goliath groupers on a surprisingly regular basis. And his channel is linked below.
What does it mean?
Rumah ikan.
Rumah ikan.
Rumah ikan kecil-kecil. Ya.
And today, yellowfin?
Yellowfin, tuna, maybe kura-kura.
As we head out to the new bamboo rafts, called rumpans, we wonder if there will be any fish at all, let alone giant tuna. And when we hop in the water, there is a lot of bait fish, which is a very good sign for yellowfin. There are also a ridiculous amount of one other fish, triple tail. That same fish that I missed earlier in this video. In Indonesian, triple tail are called kerapu rumpan, which translated to English means fad grouper. Some fish have evolved to have a giant spear on their nose. Others have evolved to swim lightning fast, while others have evolved to glide through the air like an airplane. The evolutionary journey of triple tails, however, gifted them with a unique survival mechanism. They pretend not to exist. Most predatory fish hunt using pattern recognition, and because triple tail live around floating debris in the open ocean, they survive by mimicking that debris, floating around, barely moving, almost like an underwater possum, playing dead. Which, unfortunately for them, makes for a very easy target. Aside from their unassuming nature, they've also evolved to have extremely thick skulls and scales, neither of which are a very helpful defense against modern spearfishing technology. I, however, don't give a fuck about these fish and dive down past the triple tail looking for tuna. More yellowfin tuna are caught in Indonesia than any other country on Earth, I think to myself, while not pulling the trigger on anything. Part of the appeal of spearfishing, for me, is the challenge. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it playing with my food, but shooting fish in what is essentially the world's biggest barrel doesn't get me nearly as excited as Jack. A few years ago, there was a submarine carrying 53 members of the Indonesian Navy. But after a few days at sea, the crew on shore lost contact with it. And a few more days later, they found the remains of the ship multiple miles deep on the bottom of the ocean. Directly below where we are right now. This doesn't have anything to do with the story here, it's just kind of sad and interesting. Anyways, you might be wondering why there are so many triple tails here today. And honestly, I have no idea. My best guess is that they're spawning. Like humans, when it's time to reproduce, all logical thinking goes out the window, which makes them significantly easier to hunt. However, while sharks reproduce in a somewhat similar way to humans, as you can see here, triple tails basically just ejaculate into the water while the females drop eggs in that very same water, some of which end up fertilized, and those fertilized eggs can drift for hundreds of miles before settling. It's for this reason that, although the triple tail population in specific areas may be overfished, the species, in general, is not really at risk of being endangered, because their eggs will float along to a completely different area where an entirely new group of them might pop up. Basically, their life begins lost at sea, then they proceed to spend their entire life mimicking debris that's lost at sea, and this one's life is about to end while pretending to be lost at sea. This is my buddy Kadir. He makes a living selling the fish that he spears, and because he only gets half price for a fish with a spear wound through the middle of the fillet, he pretty much only ever gets headshots. My buddy Nico, on the other hand, was also a commercial spear fisherman back in the day, which might explain why he usually gets headshots as well. However, sometimes when you're spearing a fish that's as easy to catch as this one, it's possible to get overconfident.
A triple tail was the worst beast of my life.
Regardless, this truly is the easiest fish to spear in the entire ocean. Anyways, eventually Jack and the other guys begin to get tired of shooting these metaphorical barrelfish as well. So, we decide to bring my big Sony camera into the water. Because there are so many triple tails around today, my goal is to capture the most epic triple tail spearfishing videos the world has ever seen. And as Kadir descends towards the palm leaves at around 30 feet deep, I follow him with my giant camera. And as usual, he stones the fish with a headshot. But the palm leaves were in the way of my shot. Luckily, the fish are still there. And now it's Nico's turn. However, although that footage was also pretty epic, this time I was too far away from him and the fish looked too small for the wide-angle lens on my camera. But now it's Jack's turn. Look at how sexy he looks without his wetsuit top on. Is Jack also trying to mate with the spawning triple tail? I wonder, while capturing some more super epic Netflix quality footage with my underwater cinema camera. At this point, I've completely forgotten about the tuna that I wanted so badly just a few hours ago.
And I love the camera. When you get shots, it's like you take part in all the fish. Like I just shot one.
But there are so many triple tail here today, and they are so easy to spear, we decide to take our footage to a whole new level.
Nico, come closer.
And literally organize a murderous photo shoot on the surface before diving down and spearing one of the fish. Now it's my turn to finally spear one. And our plan is to film me from the front rather than from behind. However, to make a shot truly cinematic, you need multiple camera angles. And so, Nico is in front of me with the Sony camera in the perfect position. Meanwhile, Jack is filming me from behind with his head-mounted DJI action camera, while I'm simultaneously filming on my DJI action camera that's mounted to my forehead. And like a good extra on a movie set, this little shark swims across the frame right on cue. David Attenborough would be so proud right now. But although that footage is pretty epic, there are two things that we could have done better. First, the shot was backlit, and second, I didn't quite get a headshot. And if we really want to capture the most epic triple tail spearfishing videos the world has ever seen, it needs to be a stone shot. Luckily, it's now Kadir's turn. And you already know what's about to happen. As it turns out, I am able to enjoy myself in the water, even without any giant tuna around. Sometimes, spearfishing can be less about challenging yourself and more about filling your freezer with healthy, fresh, delicious protein. Speaking of which, back on shore, it's time for a Balinese barbecue.
He's got the Yeti.
Yes.
The Yeti cooler.
These days, there are two Balis. There is the Bali that we're in right now, full of local Indonesians, no one speaks English, chickens and dogs and children run around the streets, and life is simple. This is my favorite Bali.
This is
Yeah,
super nice.
But there's also another side of Bali. Back down south, where I live, it feels a lot less like an island paradise and a lot more like a tourist wonderland. Paddle courts are being built on top of rice paddies. Aesthetic coffee shops are everywhere. And bougie gyms full of tattooed tourists eating acai bowls are the norm. I don't hate this Bali, but I don't know if I love it either. At this point, it's almost like it's part of the culture here in some weird way. Sort of like how the culture in Las Vegas is inextricably linked with gambling. Anyways, my point here is, because Bali is one of the most famous tourist destinations in the world, it's also home to some of the best restaurants in the world. And today, we're cooking one of these triple tails Spanish style. This is my friend Ruben.
It's good. Yeah, you did. From Spain, okay?
He's the owner of a restaurant called Pescado, which, translated from Spanish to English, means fish.
The best seafood in Spain.
As an accomplished chef from the Basque country in Spain, as you can
You
see,
look like you've done this before.
this is not the first fish he's ever filleted.
Are you fish with the Arbon, yes, sir. You fish, I cook. Yeah.
And cook he does.
You need little bit to put down the refrito, we call. Frito is fried. Oh yeah, refried.
He basically just cooks it with olive oil, garlic,
Viene dado, eh? No fire,
and a special paprika that he brought all the way from Spain.
paprika.
The Spanish, apparently, pride themselves on using very few ingredients so that you can really taste the meat of the fish.
Smells so good.
It's amazing. Yeah. The Libya style. It's simple. You don't really spend the product. We don't spend space. You don't put this stock. This is with the grouper head and brown head.
After the fish is cooked, he heats up the oil that it was cooked in, adds more paprika, and pours it on top.
Wow. Finish. We can breathe. That's why in Spain we eat a lot of bread, because we have the best sauce.
And this is the best triple tail that I've ever had in my life by far.
That is so good. That's crazy.
Nice.
Oh, and thanks again to Incogni for sponsoring this video.
Yeah, good.
How was it? How was it?
How what?
You like garden?